It's happy hour.
You guys on a happy hour?
The heart of Lincoln, America.
Yeah, maybe a couple.
Here are your hosts, Nick Sainert.
I want to know what it's like to commit a crime without having to spend time in jail.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
C is for chunk.
Brought to you by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Good afternoon. Happy Monday. Coming off of the holiday weekend. Was it tough to get up for you this morning, Rico?
Dude, I slept like a log last night. We didn't get back from Orchard until like 9:30.
Oh, that's late. Kids slept in the car?
Yeah, and then we were like, oh, they'll go straight to sleep when we get home. They'll stay asleep. No. They were up for a little bit. It wasn't too long. They were up for a little bit. Okay. KJ was just a little hellion. Ellie just kind of laid on the couch and she was just like, she's like, I want milk and watch TV. So we watched like one episode of PJ Masks and then she fell asleep.
Episode of what?
PJ Masks.
Is it a kid's show?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll have to give details because I have no clue.
I don't really. It's these three kids who at night they turn into superheroes.
Oh, that's pretty sweet.
One is
makes
like
Ellie think she can do anything.
Yeah, one has like the powers of cats with like speed and stuff, and the other one has powers of an owl, so she can fly and she like can make like very strong winds. And the other one has the power of lizards, so he's got strength and he can stick to things. Stuff like that. Weird kid things. But it's a good show.
We do have a good show lined up for you guys today. I want to talk a little college basketball transfer portal because the numbers are pretty big. There's some pretty big numbers, and On3 did a comparison to college basketball transfer portal numbers and college football transfer portal numbers. And it might surprise you where Nebraska maybe falls on this list of how hard they've been hit with attrition and guys transferring out. And so we'll talk about that at 1:30 here. We'll be joined by Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska. He'll come on the show to talk a little Husker basketball recruiting, as well as Husker football, as we're just 12 days away from the spring game. It doesn't feel like it necessarily.
That's wild.
But here's one thing I've realized, Rico, is time flies by so fast. It is insane that we are already to April 10th. And maybe after the spring game, time is going to slow down, but it feels like the football season will be here before we know it.
Oh, it's getting here extremely fast, especially with you doing all of this work, trying to graduate from school. That probably helps things fly by.
A lot of people are making a huge deal out of that. I'm talking just sports wise.
This might be the first regular show that we have in the past 5 shows, something like that.
Well, so I wasn't here on Thursday because I had class. Wasn't here on Friday for at least the happy hour, that is. Wasn't here on Friday because of class. You're
gonna leave early tomorrow.
I'll leave early tomorrow. Wednesday is up in the air because it's a pretty big day. Thursday, leave early. Friday won't be here.
Yeah.
We're talking. This is slim, and people will make fun of me on the text line.
The people on the happy hour miss you.
But shout out to DP and Becky because and Mark obviously because they're allowing me to get out of here
to not work
to not be here. So I appreciate them obviously, but
yeah, back to football.
In a month it'll be all normal.
Yeah. But no, back to football. This is moving along. I feel like spring practice just started last week.
Yeah,
and we're already, like you said, 12 days away from the first spring game under Matt Rule. Hopefully you see some physicality and you see some tackling based on the scrimmages that they've had and some of the videos we've seen. Doesn't look like they're scared of tackling. Doesn't look like they're scared to hit.
Heinrich, I was to say Heinrich Harburg lowering his shoulder into a defender,
throwing a block on one of the Giffords. Yep. You saw Luke Gifford tweet out that he's going to get his get back at some point.
Yeah, head on a swivel for Heinrich Harburg.
Yeah, you got to be ready, quarterback. You're wearing those green jerseys, but it looks like contact is all go in practice. So, this spring ball is moving along like clockwork. It's going to be really interesting to see how things pan out at the spring game. what the scoring system is going to be like, who's on what teams, and exactly what they're going to do with the spring game. Also, what the announcement with Frank Solich coming into town is going to be.
Well, that's what's super interesting. It's cool that you brought up the scoring system, because I think that's something that maybe we don't think about it. I hope to see, since we're expecting more of a traditional type of game, to more, where you're hitting guys, and maybe quarterbacks wear green jerseys, maybe not. And maybe that's a question for you guys. 402-464-5685. Understanding the risks, would you rather quarterbacks wear green jerseys and be two-hand touch for the spring game, or would you rather them be in no green jerseys and full contact? And I guess on that road, it doesn't matter as long as the other position players are full go. I think that's where I don't need to see the quarterback get laid out right now. Especially, I think there are some question marks.
I think
revolving around a couple of the guys in the quarterback room. I think that there's a lot of competition that needs to be taken and be had there, and is being had throughout the course of spring ball. Because I'll say it, I'm just not as sold on a couple of those guys maybe as the coaching staff is quite yet.
No, things still need to be fleshed out in the quarterback room. And, you've got Jeff Sims and you've got Casey Thompson, who have experience starting at the Division I level. And after that, you have a bunch of question marks, like you just said. And my thing is, I feel pretty decent about the quarterback room right now, because you have two guys with starting experience. If one starts, if that person gets hurt, you got somebody behind him that feels pretty good. But if one of those guys decides, hey, I wanted to be a starter, I think I can start somewhere else, and leaves, you are back in the position you were in last year, where you have somebody that you trust fully to get things done, and then you have a whole bunch of inexperience behind them. So for me, in this spring game, in the pocket, two-hand touch. If they run, and the quarterbacks are going to run, it's free game.
Well, we know we probably won't be able to see Casey Thompson in that spring game. So
you're not going to see him.
You're not going to see Casey Thompson, so it's going to be
probably not Smothers,
Logan Smothers. So it's going to be Jeff Sims, Chubba Purdy, Heinrich Harburg, and Richard Torres.
Yes.
And then Jack Wosh, the walk-on. It's fascinating to think about, because Rico, you said something there in terms of you have two guys on this roster if both of them stay, and the one that won't stay if he decides to transfer out. Jeff Sims isn't going anywhere. So it's whether they have Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson, or if they just have Jeff Sims.
Well, okay, so
but
the thing
here's what's interesting about something you just said, though, Rico, is that you have two guys that have starting experience. But I'm not sure, just because they have starting experience, and this goes more for Jeff Sims, I don't know if that makes me more comfortable with them.
I mean, it makes me more confident in that person than with Heinrich Harburg or Logan Smothers or Chubba Purdy.
But think about where you're measuring that up, what you're measuring up to.
But that's what I'm saying, is if you have both of them, I feel okay, because if one goes down, you have somebody. Even if you're uncomfortable with Jeff Sims just because he has starting experience, at least he's been in those situations. At least he's been on the field when things get real. I understand Chubba was on the field. He started, 2 games last season, but he got hurt in the second game that he started. Logan Smothers has started a game for Nebraska as well. He also got hurt. Like, it's just these things where they haven't played enough live reps in a Division I football game for me to feel comfortable. Now, the coaching staff, they see things, day in and day out with these guys for them to feel comfortable. So my opinion really doesn't matter all that much. But this is just how I feel about these things, where if Casey and Jeff are both on the roster opening day, if one of them happens to get hurt at some point during the season and they're both still here, I feel good.
I suppose
if one of them is gone and that other person gets hurt, I feel a lot less confident. But the thing is, you look at both of them and you want to talk about, maybe the possibility of one of them transferring. Jeff just got here. Yeah. Jeff just transferred in. If he transfers out, he's going to have to sit out a year. Casey Thompson transferred in last year. If he leaves, I don't know if he's graduated yet. I don't know if he graduates this year. If he graduates and he transfers, he can go right away as a grad transfer. But if he transfers now and he's not a graduate, I think he has to sit out a year.
My guess would be that he's going to graduate in May.
Although his coach did get fired, he could probably put in
a waiver.
But
now with that, I can agree with you on that, because we've talked about it on the show before. The drop off that has occurred between QB1 and QB2 or even QB3 at times in the last couple of years. And this goes nothing against the actual quarterback specifically. It goes more to the talent or development in that room. Right. And so that drop off from Casey Thompson to Chubba Purdy, or even to Logan Smothers at one point. Prior to that, Adrian Martinez to Luke McCaffrey. It's just been frustrating, because then you have teams like, Minnesota is the perfect example. Nebraska more than likely beats Minnesota last year if Tanner Morgan stays into the game. PJ Fleck,
damn you, Ty Robinson.
PJ Fleck willingly goes to Kaliak Manis in the game in the second half, and Minnesota, led by Mo Ibrahim, looks like an entirely new team, and they end up beating Nebraska in a Big Ten style of game. So it's just frustrating, because you see that. Then you look at like even Michigan, where they had Caden McNamara, who's now at Iowa, but at one point they had McNamara and JJ McCarthy. And it was this situation last year. It was funny, and not many people are talking about it now that Cade has already transferred. But people will forget, Jim Harbaugh was like, all right, Cade's starting game 1, and then JJ's starting game 2. And game 2 is against Hawaii, where Michigan is a 50-plus point favorite.
Yeah.
And they're going to run up the score with J.J. McCarthy. So that way, going into week 3, it's, hey, J.J. McCarthy's the perfect fit. And, let's be honest, he is playing well right now.
He played better, and he had better stats. Yeah, you were playing Hawaii. It was a setup. If Cade McNamara would have started against Hawaii, he would have been the start of the rest of the season. They set him up. They wanted J.J. McCarthy to start from the beginning. They had to, quote-unquote, have a quarterback battle to see who was going to be the starter. I guarantee Harbaugh wanted J.J. McCarthy from the jump, so they just had to do that just to prove that they had the right quarterback starting for Michigan. And it all worked out. They made the college football playoff. They were, a couple of pick sixes or whatever happened against TCU away from making the national championship, and probably definitely putting up a better game than TCU did against Georgia.
I don't necessarily want to sit here and speculate on names that could enter the portal, especially from that quarterback room. So I'll ask you this, Rico. In terms of numbers, Nebraska's sitting at 6 scholarship quarterbacks right now, with obviously Casey, Logan Smothers and Jeff Sims, Heinrich Harburg, Chubba Purdy, and Richard Torres as the redshirt freshman. Can we agree that 2 of those scholarship guys will leave?
At the very least, this sounds bad. I can guarantee at least one will leave.
Well, yeah. Okay, yes. One's going to leave.
At the 2? You put the over under at 1.5. I'm taking the over.
I'm taking the over as well. And so what I think Husker fans might be used to, under Scott Frost, they had 5 scholarship quarterbacks on the roster every single year under Scott Frost. Here, obviously, they have 6 because they have added 1, haven't gotten rid of any yet, or none of them have decided to leave.
And so, rid of. It's pretty
either way, it
probably
works
the right
out.
Term.
Either way, it's going to be accurate. So the transfer portal is about to open up, and I'm not so sure. See, we're getting a lot of speculation and text in on the text line, 402-464-5685, the Honda Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line. We're getting a lot of texts regarding 2 of the younger guys, and I would be cautious if I were a Husker fan, taking the low-hanging fruit and saying, the redshirt freshman and one of the sophomores are going to be trading. Are going to be transferring.
Maybe one of them, but I don't. The thing is, okay, I don't want to speculate anything, but the thing is, you have 2 older quarterbacks who, again, have starting experience. One of them is not going to start. I don't know which one isn't going to start, but one of them is not going to be the starter. And my thought process is,
just stop it right there for a moment, because let's build a case.
Okay.
Right. Let's think about everything that has happened over these last 4 or 5 months. One of your guys has been able to practice all spring.
Yep.
One of them has not.
Nope.
One of your guys was brought in by this specific coaching staff. One obviously was not. If you take names out of it and you just have this common sense about it, and you have this inkling that
there's eerie feeling
that we know who this staff wants, because that's just the way the business works. And so understanding competitiveness and realizing that if there is a true position battle, which I think would be safe to say there currently is in terms of everything that Casey Thompson can do off the field in terms of his power, right?
It's a rough
it's
time
so
to have
it's
a quarterback
so hard.
battle.
Well, it's so hard to have an injury that keeps you out for your entire spring.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because that's think about the conversation that will be had in the fall if Jeff Sims ends up being the starter and Casey Thompson might not be here. If that conversation is, oh boy, how does this thing start or get off the ground if Casey Thompson's the starting quarterback and not Jeff Sims? Or even taking it a step further, if Casey Thompson's able to practice in the spring with Jeff Sims. And not just run on the east side of the practice field like we've seen him the last couple times we've been at practice.
Now I'm pretty sure. So Jeff Sims has 2 years remaining to play in college, I believe, with the COVID year and
Jeff Sims is a junior.
Yeah, so he has he has 2 years left to play. Casey Thompson, I believe, only has 1. So if Casey Thompson somehow wins the job, and the fact that Jeff Sims just transferred in, I mean, he'll be your backup. And I think it would be, I mean, he'd probably be upset because he's a competitor, but he'd be able to win that job the next year.
Well, here's what I'd say. Adding more to the fire, right? You start out with Minnesota and Colorado, 2 games. One of them is more important than the other. And from I guess a fan standpoint, Colorado might be more important because you want to beat Dion and but being realistic, I think Minnesota and the conference games obviously the most important. I don't know. They don't have what Michigan had last year where they have a game against Hawaii. They don't have time to. And so that's where it's like, I wonder how quick we see this thing kind of play out and unfold and resolve itself. Because it'll all be settled and we'll all move on with whatever happens, whether with whatever quarterbacks are here. I will say, watching practice last week, I love Richard Torres' arm. Does it fit perfectly with what Matt Rule wants to do? Probably not, but he throws it as well as anybody in that group.
That quarterback run game,
and he's also got the height, but the quarterback
that quarterback run game is a really important part of the puzzle. But as I looked up last week, if you go back and you look up Casey Thompson's recruiting profile, he was a dual threat quarterback coming out of high school. He had 20 rushing touchdowns his senior year in high school. He had, I think it was over 500 yards rushing his senior year in high school. Yeah. He also only threw 4 interceptions his senior year. But then he gets to Texas, and I believe that they discovered the arm talent was so elite or so good that they tried to turn him into a pocket passer, which is what he's done for the past 4 years in college. Now, if you're telling him, hey, go back to what you did in high school, you can scramble, you can run, you have the freedom to do this, because I don't know if he had, and this, I'm not taking a shot, I don't know if he had that type of freedom in last year's offense. You notice after he came back from his injury, he was running more and running people over, which was kind of concerning, but hey, whatever. But before, he was in the pocket. He's holding onto the ball. He didn't really make any effort to, and this isn't a shot at him, any effort to escape from the people coming to sack him. He just kind of fall down so he wouldn't really get hurt. You take those blindside hits, and that's how he ended up getting hurt. But the offensive line was bad. But he's not a statue back there. He is a little smaller in terms of Big Ten quarterback. If you're asking your quarterback to run, he is a little smaller. But the dude had wheels. I don't know if he still has them now, but he was able to run, escape pressure, and get yards for himself. So that is an element to his game that I don't think we've seen. Actually, I know we haven't seen yet here at Nebraska. So once he gets healthy and he's able to practice and he's able to show off the skill set that he has, I think that's when we'll truly get into that actual quarterback competition that we all want to see. And I'm hoping it doesn't end up like Scott Frost's first year, where they had Tristan Gebbia, Adrian Martinez. Was it the week before the first game they named Adrian the starter and Tristan Gebbia enters the portal?
I would assume that we get to watch practice for a little bit tomorrow. We haven't received any note of times or anything like that. But if that's the case, I know where I'll be. I'll probably be with the quarterbacks and maybe a little bit of running backs as well, because running backs, we know how deep they are. I think you're just trying to see if a guy emerges or if they're going to have to go with a couple of guys back there. And then a little bit other note, just something to take note of. Arik Gilbert will need a waiver, according to Matt Rule. Matt Rule kind of talked about that. Arik Gilbert, who is on his third school currently, Georgia previously, and then LSU is where he began his career.
Technically fourth. He went to he transferred from LSU to Florida for like a week.
For like a week, yes.
Still counts.
So I guess 3 SEC schools and now the Big Ten.
Yeah.
Arik Gilbert will need a waiver, and Matt Rule said that he doesn't expect to have any difficulty obtaining that, but you know how the NCAA works and in all its glory. So let's go ahead and we'll take a timeout. When we come back, we'll be joined by Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska, break down Husker football. We'll ask him some of these same thoughts on this quarterback room / competition, if you want to call it that right now, and then a little Husker hoops as they are still searching for their first transfer portal commit here in the offseason. We'll do all that coming up next with Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska.
Follow Nick and Enrique on Twitter at Nick_Saint and at Radio Rico AC. More of Happy Hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and them.com.
Put lawn irrigation on automatic. Think Judson Irrigation for worry-free service to Lincoln homeowners and business community. Judson Irrigation will turn on your sprinkler system in the spring, repair or redesign as needed, and turn it off in the fall. For service to orphan sprinklers, remember Judson Irrigation. They'll never forget you.
Call the Judson Irrigation Orphanage, 402-420-6277 or judsonirrigation.com.
For great views, go to Kansas. For unforgettable views of action-packed racing, go to Kansas Speedway. With a premier facility that gives fans what they want, how they want to see it. And with a Saturday doubleheader, a Sunday Cup Series race, and great deals on kids' tickets, the views will get better all weekend long. Kansas Speedway, May 6th and 7th. Get your tickets today at kansasspeedway.com.
Rico here with HIS Auto Care at 70th and Van Dorn, letting you know HIS is a great place to bring your vehicle for service. With superior service, bumper to bumper, we'll treat your vehicle like it's your mother's. Doesn't get any better than that. So call 402-488-8934 and HIS Auto will make you glad you did. 5% off, mention this ad, and for sure your mother will be proud you called. 402-488-8934, HIS Auto Care, 70th and Van Dorn. God bless you.
Motor Food is Lincoln's hardest rocking food truck and cafe. Motor Food creates old school comfort food with a 21st century twist and lots of rock and roll attitude. Try the barbecue pulled pork mac and cheese, the grilled chicken Firebird sandwich, a 100% all beef split grilled hot dog, and any version of their funky fries. Stop by the cafe just past Steakhouse on 48th Street or catch the food truck out and about all spring and summer. Check out their menu, order carry out, or schedule catering at motorfoodtruck.com.
You've driven by GE Landscape Supply countless times, likely without even knowing, at 6701 Cornhusker Highway. But now it's time to stop in. GE Landscape Supply sells to homeowners and contractors with a vast selection of landscaping and construction material. They sell in bulk to save you money, buying anything from a 5-gallon bucket to a semi-load. They deliver anywhere, and if you mention you heard this ad on 93.7 The Ticket, they'll deliver in town for free through the month of April, with some restrictions applying. Go to GELandscapesupply.com for more info or call 402-467-1627.
At first, I was really nervous and intimidated to buy a ring. I wasn't sure what I was getting into.
My experience at Starter Heyman was very easy. I felt like I walked out of Starter Heyman with the ring that was going to make her go wow and say yes.
I love my ring. It is so beautiful.
I absolutely love my ring. I get compliments on it all the time. I always tell them Starter Heyman.
Yeah, we would definitely recommend Starter Heyman.
Yeah, it was great.
We're definitely coming back.
Sauter Heyman Jewelers, Lincoln and Grand Island. SauterHeyman.com.
Spring sports are here, and it's time to upgrade your equipment. But don't go rushing to your big box store. Play It Again Sports is your place to go for all spring sports equipment for baseball, softball, golf, and disc golf. Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And don't forget, buying from them is a great way to get new products with great discounts by also bringing in your used items for store credit or cash on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
The Butchery by Venue is Lincoln's premier specialty grocers. Take the quality of Venue home with you with our hand-cut steaks, handcrafted burgers, and local sourced offerings. Browse our wide selection of specialty products designed to enhance your dining experiences with cheeses, spices, sauces, and more. We also have an exclusive collection of liquors, whiskeys, and bourbons at prices you're sure to love. Stop into the Butchery by Venue today, located in our Venue at Home storefront at 70th and Pioneers, just 2 doors down from Venue Restaurant and Lounge.
Problem gambling affects more than the gambler. It affects spouses, children, extended family members, and friends. If you are a loved one who's struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's helpline at 402-476-2300. That's 476-2300.
Lincoln Earth Day is on Saturday, April 15th at UNL's Innovation Campus. Green vehicles, local foods, live music, and fun family-friendly activities from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sponsored by Johanna Rhodes Real Estate. More event details at rhoadshomes.com.
93.7 The Ticket, Fox, KFXL weather. Sponsored by John Henry's Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning.
Expect mostly sunny skies and just a beautiful way to start off the work week. We'll reach a high of 77. Winds turning out of the northeast at around 10. Clear tonight with a low dropping down to around 49. It will be warm and windy tomorrow. We'll reach a high of 85 with south winds gusting to 30. I'm meteorologist Tim Wright for 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick Sainert.
Even before you start. That was a preemptive shh.
And Enrique Alvarez Clary.
I already had someone created in my image. He's evil, he wants to take over the world, and he fits easily into most overhead storage bins.
On 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Welcome back into the Happy Hour, 93.7 The Ticket, theticketfm.com. Nick and Rico joining you per usual. 402-464-5685, the Honda of Lincoln hotline, the Starter Heyman text line, both those open for you guys the rest of the way here. Good conversation on the quarterback battle, I suppose, if you want to call it that, despite Casey Thompson unable to practice in spring. I mentioned he's, for the most part, for what we can see, when we go watch practice, he's just kind of hanging out in the on the east side of the practice field, running with Logan Smothers as well, while Sims, Purdy, Torres, who has a cannon for an arm, and then Jack Wosh, the walk-on from Ole Miss. They just kind of go through drills in the actual Hawks practice facility. But for now, we're going to turn our attention to basketball to kick things off as we bring in Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska. Steve, what's up, man? How was the Easter weekend?
Hey, Nick. Hey, Rico. Thanks for having me on. Yeah, the Easter weekend was very relaxing. I made it back home to Howells, Nebraska with the wife and the new baby. So she was the star of the show whenever we went out and visited with some family at their place. So it was a pretty cool moment, honestly, to be a kind of a first-time dad with the whole Easter thing.
I was going to say, so when you are obviously this is the first holiday that you've had the new child, correct?
Yeah, it is.
Okay, so at the holiday, at the family gatherings, because I thought about this weekend when I was holding my new cousin, who's a baby, obviously.
Yeah.
Now you're holding your 12-year-old cousin.
But no, I thought, man, is this kind of a break for the parents that they just dish them off to a family member and they don't really have to worry about them a whole lot? Did you find out that to be true?
Yeah, I think that's pretty accurate. I mean, it's never a bad thing when you can go to a place and have somebody take the little girl off your hands for a little bit, because when you're at home by yourselves, you're holding her constantly. So I absolutely agree with that sentiment. That it gives the parents a nice little break that they all kind of need, I think. So it was a good time to have have the family take turns kind of just holding her and checking her out. So yeah, good all around.
Oh yeah, Steve, those are the best moments, and you get pictures of people just smiling at the baby. It's great. But just a word of warning: this weekend, my son, who is 1.5 ish, he'll be 2 this year, was eating a Rice Krispie, was playing in the sandbox, had sand all over his hands and all over his Rice Krispie, and that didn't stop him. So pretty sure he ate some sand, but he was totally fine with it.
Yeah. So sand eating is probably bad, but I definitely understand where you're coming from, Rico. There were multiple times when I was over at like a family member's house, and I would like look over and I did not see my daughter. So I'm like, oh, well, I mean, I know someone has her, but like me not knowing exactly where she is, that was kind of like a weird feeling for me. Even though in the back of my head I knew that she was in safe hands, I just not seeing her, knowing where she was at, I was like, I don't know if I like this much, but it was all good at the end.
I was gonna say, I'm sure she'd turn up eventually. Somebody would be
Yes, she did.
There'd
She
be a
did,
dirty
100%.
diaper or something for you to change.
Oh yeah.
Yes. I become a pro at the diapers, by the way.
That's
perfect. They're fantastically terrible.
Yeah, most of them are.
All right, Steve, let's go ahead and talk sports instead. 402-464-5685. You have any questions for Steve, shoot them our way if you want to, listeners. But let's talk first about Husker basketball, because last time we talked to you guys or talked to you on the show, Nebraska had not gotten a commitment. You filled us in a little on Hunter Salas. Now Nebraska is talking to a Charlotte transfer in the name of Bryce Williams. What can you tell us about Bryce Williams? And he visited campus this past weekend, correct?
Yeah, so he was here Friday through Sunday, I believe. So he spent the Easter weekend in Lincoln on the visit. And I think fans, if you check anything out about Bryce Williams from Charlotte, I think the fans are really going to like this guy. So he's a shooting guard. He has excellent size at 6'7", around 215, 210 pounds. He's an experienced guy. He played 3 full seasons, but he spent 4 at Charlotte. I think he redshirted 2 seasons ago and didn't play at all because of a knee injury, but he came back for this last season and played in all 36 games. And mostly he came off the bench, but he was playing a starter's amount of minutes, and he led the 49ers in scoring at around a little under 14 points per game, if I'm remembering correctly. And as a big guard, 6'7", he is a really good 3-point shooter. I mean, just under 40% on, my memory serves me correct, just around 4 3-point attempts per game, and he was pretty solid at the free throw line too. So, I mean, with Bryce Williams, I think it would be an excellent pickup if Nebraska could swing this guy. But I know a lot of other programs are going to want to bring him in for a visit. But with Bryce Williams, experience, tough guy, been around the block. He knows how to play basketball. And again, I just love the size for that 2 guard. He can probably play 3 and a little bit of 4, maybe small ball 4. But yeah, just a big guard who can make threes. I really like Bryce Williams.
We hear that Nebraska basketball is in with a lot of guys. They're talking to a lot of guys. They had Kirk Kriisa on campus. He ended up committing to West Virginia. Bryce Williams, like you just said, they're in talks with Hunter Salas, Charles Wrightsell Jr., some of the guys who are from the state of Nebraska, but they have yet to receive a commitment quite yet. Is this something that Nebraska fans should be worried about, or kind of like last year where they were a little late to the game after 2 early commitments? Is this something that Nebraska fans should just kind of roll with the punches?
I think it's something that you roll with the punches, because this is if you just look back at last year when Griesel came and Bandamel came and Juwan Gary came, it was in May. So there's still time going, but obviously if you're a Nebraska fan, you want to start seeing some names pop up and some commitments pop up, and I totally understand that, but there is still time. And so I'm not going to freak out or anything that the Huskers haven't really snagged one yet. But from everything that I've heard, Bryce Williams enjoyed his visit, and I don't know if he has some more visits on tap for himself, but I think Nebraska is sitting in pretty good position with him because I think he's a guy that showed that he can play at the mid-major level, and he wants to take that next step at the Power 5, 6, whatever you want to call it, in the Big Ten. So I definitely understand where fans are coming from, but I would just caution to take a deep breath. There's plenty of time to go. There will be more names to pop up for sure, with as crazy as the transfer portal is. So I think there's enough time for Nebraska to get what they're seeking out of the portal.
Well, I mean, Steve, how much do you think is this, contingent on Casey Tominaga's decision?
Yeah, I mean that's a little bit. I would say I think you still need more from the portal. You always want experienced guys, and also I forgot to mention there are other transfers coming in like Javian McCollum, that point guard from Siena. He's visiting this weekend, Friday through Sunday, I believe. And then they also had Brady Dunlap, who's 2023. Now he's a 2023 player, so he's also if they could snag him, Brady Dunlap is a former Notre Dame commit, and he asked for and was granted his release after Mike Bray, the former head coach of Notre Dame, announced that he was going to step down at the end of the season, and that's when Brady Dunlap decided to say thanks but no thanks, and then just kind of set a visit for Nebraska. So there's still some coals in the fire here for Nebraska. Javian McCollum, again, like I mentioned, he's that point guard that I think Nebraska is really kind of looking for. I know they struck out with Kirk Kriisa, but again, I told you guys last week that I'm not 100% sure if Kirk Kriisa was the good fit that I think Fred Hoiberg is looking for with Nebraska. Now we'll see how he does at West Virginia. I think Javian McCollum, from looking at him, he's a 6'2" point guard, a really good handle. But he also, the thing that I really like about Javian McCollum is he can create for himself, and he can get to the basket, and he can score the ball. And so, I think if they could, Javian McCollum, if they could convince him to commit, I think, you would start to get the ball rolling, and who knows what Bryce Williams will do. So, those two names right there, I think that would be really, really solid starts if they could get them. But obviously, these things aren't going to happen quickly. I think there's going to be a lot of visits for these guys. I know Javian McCollum is going to or has visited Oklahoma. So there's a lot of programs that want these guys, but there are some still things in the works with Nebraska basketball. I know fans want things to happen right away, but again, I'll caution there's still time.
We're talking to Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska. Steve, transitioning over to football, Rico and I just talked and had a discussion in the first segment regarding the quarterback situation, right? Because we're 12 days away from the spring game. Casey Thompson's not going to be able to play. Neither will Logan Smothers. Nebraska sits at 6 scholarship quarterbacks, 7 if you want to count the walk-on Jack Wosh. When you sit here and you know Nebraska's over the scholarship limit, without saying names, I suppose, and keeping it, unidentifiable, how many guys do you expect out of that quarterback room to move on once this transfer portal opens back up?
Yeah, that's a lot of scholarship quarterbacks, isn't it? I would say I would expect 1 scholarship quarterback to move on, but if 2 did, I would not be surprised at all. So I'm expecting 1 to move on, and who that 1 is, I truly don't know. I mean, it could be multiple guys. But yeah, when you look at the quarterback competition, and I think it is setting up to be a true competition, which is fun for fans to think about and talk about. And I think everybody's kind of, just assuming it's going to be Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson. But the spring of Heinrich Harburg, right? I mean, his name has been popped up. The coaches have talked about Heinrich Harburg a lot recently. He's apparently one of the fastest guys in the quarterback room, according to GPS numbers, not just the quarterback room, but the entire team. And, if you followed his career at Kearney Catholic, he was just a stud athlete. And so at 6'5", a little over 210 pounds, that's an intriguing prospect, right? Just because he's just a massive looking athlete. He's kind of similar build, similar look to Jeff Sims. So, it's just really interesting to think about these differences in the quarterbacks, because they're, I think if Jeff Sims is in the game, I think Marcus Satterfield is going to call a certain set of plays. The quarterback run game is obviously going to be a big part of Jeff Sims' offense if he gets in. And I think if, hypothetically, if Casey Thompson is a quarterback, that's going to be a different set of plays that Jeff Sims wouldn't be asked to run, because I think Casey Thompson is more of he's just a better quarterback, in my opinion, just from watching the film. Jeff Sims is a better athlete, better runner. He can make things happen when things break down with his legs. Casey Thompson is more of that quarterback. I think he's pretty good at his progressions, reading defenses, understanding what defenses try are trying to do against him. And I think that's an area where Jeff Sims one needs to grow at. So at the end of the day, I mean, if you listen to who Marcus Satterfield and Matt Rule talk about who the starting quarterback is going to be, it's going to be the guy, in my opinion. Well, not really in my opinion, because Marcus Satterfield has said this multiple times already in press conferences. It's the guy who's going to take the best care of the football. So that's limiting turnovers, holding onto the ball, no fumbles, not throwing interceptions. So, I mean, in my opinion, that kind of says Casey Thompson, but it's such a difficult discussion because Casey's not out there and he's not able to compete right now. It's such a tough position for him to be in. So this is an excellent opportunity for Jeff Sims, and I guess throw Heinrich Harburg's name in there too. We just don't know how Heinrich Harburg, we haven't seen him play. He hasn't played in a game in his career in his first 2 seasons at Nebraska. So I don't know. We know the idea about Heinrich Harburg, and the idea of him looks really awesome with like a big, strong athlete running around out there, but we just don't know much about him, how he reacts in a game atmosphere. And with Jeff Sims, we've seen what he can do at Georgia Tech. He's 23 interceptions in 23 career games, albeit 13 of those came as a true freshman. So I just don't know. Maybe something clicks with him and he takes better care of the football in a new environment with a new offense, with new coaches coaching him up. But man, there's a lot of storylines with that quarterback room. But yeah, getting back to who's leaving and who's going, maybe I expect one scholarship quarterback to move on, and if 2 were to happen, I wouldn't be surprised about that at all.
That's what makes this so fascinating in my eyes, is because I look at, you hear Satterfield comments like that, and that you want him to take care of the ball. And I think if you were a betting man, the 2 heavy favorites would be, the most money would be put on Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson, understandably so. But those are also your 2 guys that have turned it over quite a bit, as Casey Thompson has thrown 19 interceptions in his career. Both of those, or all of those, coming in the last 2 years. He threw 10 as a Husker last season. And then, like you said, Jeff Sims with 23 INTs in his 23 games. So it's crazy to see that and then hear a comment like that from Marcus Satterfield.
Yeah, and then like we can't ignore the quarterback run game, right? Because Marcus Satterfield definitely likes the idea of it, and he's on record saying that he wants to have at least some of that in what he's trying to do at Nebraska. And so when you think about the quarterback run game in regards to Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson, like obviously Jeff Sims is the better runner. I mean, just flip on the tape of him quarterbacking the Yellow Jackets. You know, he's just a massive human being at 6'4", 220 pounds. And he is just running through guys at times, and he's just a massive, massive person running the ball, and it looks excellent. But then, obviously, we've seen this with Nebraska for years and years and years in the Big Ten. If you rely on the quarterback run game, what's going to happen? Most likely, the quarterback is going to be taking a lot of hits, and he's going to be susceptible to injury. And both Jeff Sims and Casey Thompson have been injury prone in their college football careers. Jeff Sims missed a handful of games in 2021. He missed the final 5 last season before leaving the team altogether with 2 games left to focus on his rehab. But he knew that he was hitting the portal anyway, so I guess not that big of a deal. But Casey Thompson too, he had that bad luck injury when he was at Texas, hitting his throwing hand against the Oklahoma helmet. To I think break or tear some ligaments there. So he's had some bad luck as well. And, you know, it's just, I don't know. I wonder how much quarterback run game Satterfield actually wants to use in the Big Ten, because we all know those quarterbacks, when they start taking hits, you know, it's just bad things can happen, and you have to rely on the second quarterback and then sometimes a third quarterback on the depth chart, because those guys are good at throwing the football, but maybe not as taking hits. And I guess Jeff Sims might be more accustomed to that than Casey Thompson is. But I don't know. It's just really interesting. I think the quarterback run game is something that you always have to keep in the back of your mind when you're thinking about Nebraska and their starting quarterback competition.
Steve, I hate that we're not going to be able to go to another topic or position group, but I just thought of another question involving the quarterbacks. And while we're on it, we might as well talk about it. Is there a scenario here where, because we talk about how Casey Thompson unable to do a whole lot in the spring on the field, And he's also not an idiot. Like he understands that this coaching staff brought in Jeff Sims, right? Is there a scenario where Casey Thompson is one of those quarterbacks on the move?
Never say never with today's landscape of college football and how things are going with the transfer portal. I'm never going to be surprised by anything now. So I guess I would not be surprised. No, but I just wonder if that were to happen and Casey Thompson would end up going in the transfer portal, what his options would be. Because I think at this point, a lot of the destinations that I think would maybe entice someone like Casey Thompson might already have their guy. So I'm just wondering, what his options elsewhere would be. And it's just such a tough situation, and it kind of sheds a light on how much of a business this thing is, because you look at Casey Thompson and how well he played at times last year and how tough he was. I feel like the fans really appreciated how many times Casey Thompson got knocked in the mouth, got knocked down, and then just kept getting up and kept leading the offense the best that he could under the situation through a coaching change and injuries and everything. I mean, that guy's shoulder had to be ripped apart, and he was going out there every single game and giving it his all. So it's really fun to think about. But yeah, as for Casey Thompson and the transfer portal, it would not shock me to see something like that. But then again, I'm just wondering what kind of options he would have if he were to do that and try to look elsewhere.
Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska joined us. We get this question off the text line from a guy named Scaper. Says, let's be honest, is Tominaga coming back?
I think there's a good chance that he is. I know I don't have a definitive answer for Skater or whatever his name was, but I know that Nebraska and Trev Alberts in his recent Huskers radio network interview was very, very high on the steps that Nebraska has taken with their NIL abilities for student athletes outside of the United States. So he sounded very optimistic that things were going to get better in that area, and I'm optimistic as well that things are going to get better for the foreign student athletes being able to cash in on their name and image and likeness. So if I had to guess, I'm saying yes, K-State is coming back.
Well, there you go. Nebraska women's basketball, Jazz Shelley is coming back.
Yes.
So we saw one example of one international player leaving and Izzy Bourne going back to Australia, one coming back to and staying in Lincoln and Jazz Shelley, and now Keisei Tominaga is the tiebreaker, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, and I definitely that's a great point, Nick. I definitely should have mentioned Jazz because I think when you compare Jazz and Keisei, they both have that star factor on their teams. Not saying Izzy Bourne didn't, but when you just look at everything, social media presence, how much I guess pull they have off of the basketball court. I think Jazz Shelley has a lot of pull off of it, and I think somebody like Keisei Tominaga can, somebody just that fiery competitor guy who I think lights up social media every time he does something. So I think he's a perfect guy that would be able to cash in on NIL, and I think Nebraska has taken the steps. At least it sounds like progress has been made in that realm. So going on my guess, I'm putting money down that Keisei Tominaga is coming back.
Well, I thought Izzy was staying and Jazz was going, and I thought Tominaga was going. So hopefully my record stays the same.
Yeah, hopefully you stay wrong, Rico.
Exactly. We love it when Rico's wrong.
Perfect.
Steve, hey, appreciate the time as always, man. We'll definitely talk to you soon. I think we have one more conversation next Monday prior to the spring game that we'll be able to have all of our questions answered.
Yeah, and we'll get another open portion to the media for football practice tomorrow morning. Sweet. So that's something that we could talk about. So
absolutely,
staying busy over here in the Inside Nebraska realm.
What group are you watching tomorrow?
I want to stay on the offense. I think. I mean, I know that they don't want us to. They don't want the quarterbacks to really be throwing more than 10 yards when the media members are watching, and I totally get it. I understand. But last time we were there, we saw Casey Thompson before all the injured yellow jerseys were out in the cold and working on the stationary bikes and stuff. We did see Casey Thompson throw a little bit. Now it wasn't more than 5 yards or anything, but he was out there with Logan Smothers tossing the pigskin around. And I want to see more of that because I think he can. If the doctors would let him, I bet he could go and compete right now. But he's playing it safe and waiting till fall, I guess. But I want to stick around the offense and see those quarterbacks. See Thomas Fidone. I love watching that guy run around. What an animal that guy looks like. Arik Gilbert too. I know he's got that waiver situation, but the staff seems pretty excited about his ability to get that waiver and play this season. And then, of course, the offensive line. I can never get enough of those guys. There aren't a lot of bodies, but it really like watching Bryce Benhart walk around to reshaping his body. Ben Scott, I think, is an excellent addition. I have a lot of fun watching him run around and block some drills. So, yeah, I want to stick on the offense.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to talk about Bryce Benhart because I saw you write an article about him a couple days ago. So that's definitely a fascinating conversation. Circling around a Nebraska offensive line that was not very good at protecting the quarterback last year. So, all right, Steve, hey, we'll go ahead and let you go for now. Enjoy the dad life. Hope you had a good Easter where you got to just kind of hand her off like a football. And we'll talk to you next Monday, man.
Yeah, nobody fumbled her, thank God. Thank you for having me on, guys.
Thanks, Steve. That is Steve Mark of Inside Nebraska. Whew, nobody fumbled the baby.
That is a relief. You never want to fumble the baby.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
Don't drop your children.
Don't drop children.
PSA from the happy hour.
Yeah, you're welcome. We're men of wisdom. So from one father and one non-father. So
perfect.
All right, let's take our final time out. Strick and Austin join us next.
Download our app by searching 93.7 The Ticket in your app store to stay in touch and listen all day long wherever you are. More of the happy hour is next on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
Gaina Trucking is hiring CDL Class A and B drivers. Gaina Trucking guarantees a 40-hour work week year-round, and their strong team culture makes it not a job, but a career. Gaina Trucking offers health, vision, and dental insurance, 401k with company match, an employee assistance program, and other bonus programs. Build a better career today with great team culture at Gaina Trucking. Learn more and apply today at GainaTrucking.com.
It's April, and that means the school year is almost over and summer road trips are on the horizon. Stop telling yourself you'll upgrade your car someday and do it now. Mullen Motors lot is full of great vehicles to take home, so you don't have to worry about your current car barely surviving another road trip. Come check out their lot just north of 48th and Layton and find your next ride, as summer road trips are just around the corner. Mullen Motors.
No tagline, just quality vehicles. Mullen Motors.
Spring sports are here, and it's time to upgrade your equipment. But don't go rushing to your big box store. Play It Again Sports is your place to go for all spring sports equipment for baseball, softball, golf, and disc golf. Play It Again Sports has quality, slightly to gently used equipment, and 50% of their inventory is actually new equipment. And don't forget, buying from them is a great way to get new products with great discounts by also bringing in your used items for store credit or cash on the spot. Play It Again Sports at 48th and Vine.
Rosie Sports Bar and Grill. Open for lunch and dinner at 10th and P or at 1501 Center Park Road.
Experience the Landmark difference with the next level of dealer support. Landmark, your local John Deere dealer, continually works to have parts on hand the first time you walk in the door. Our internal route system means we can get the parts to you typically same or next day to keep you up and running. At Landmark, we understand time is money. Get more uptime with our after-hours parts and service support on the phone or in the field. Our sales, precision ag, parts, and service teams are ready to serve you this planting season. Stop by your local Landmark today to experience the Landmark difference.
Prashawn Jackson here for Bauer Underground, who has been serving local contractors and utility contractors all across the state since 1997. When you see the black and white trucks, you know the baddest dudes in the business have arrived. Bauer is currently looking for equipment operators, laborers, diesel mechanics, and aerial linemen. Join the brotherhood built on hard work, authentic people, and pedigree of success. Bauer, a family-friendly company who reminds you, go Big Red!
Are you worried about storm damage causing issues with your basements? F Foundation Repair fixes basements with supreme waterproofing and exact concrete leveling for residential or commercial clients. They service wet basements, leaky walls, damp crawl spaces, bowing or cracked bricks or drywall, and more. Whether you're in southeast Nebraska, the Tri-Cities area, or northeast Kansas, they'll easily make the trip to you. Get a free evaluation today by visiting WeFixBasements.com or call 402-804-1024. Ep Foundation Repair. We Fix Basements.
For great views, go to Kansas. For forgettable views of action-packed racing, go to Kansas Speedway. With a facility that gives fans what they want, how they want to see it. And with a Saturday doubleheader, a Sunday Cup Series race, and great deals on kids' tickets, the views will matter all week long. NASCAR weekend at Kansas Speedway, May 6th and 7th. Get your tickets today at kansasspeedway.com.
Problem gambling affects more than the gambler. It affects spouses, children, extended family, friends. If you are a loved one who's struggling with addiction, contact Choices Treatment Center's helpline at 402-476-2300. That's 476-2300.
Hi, it's Joel Norman, the voice of your Lincoln Stars hockey team. Tune in to 93.7 The Ticket every Tuesday night from 8 to 9 p.m. to hear the latest on the Stars with myself, head coach Rocky Russo, and special player guests.
This is Lincoln's home for sports talk on the FM dial. Also online at theticketfm.com. On the internet. KNTK FM Firth, 93.7 The Ticket. You're listening to the Happy Hour with Nick
Him and tell me that God.
and Enrique Alvarez Clary. Sponsored by Empire Fence and Netting on 93.7 The Ticket and theticketfm.com.
You love it.
Welcome back in to the Happy Hour, 93.7 The Ticket, ticketfm.com. The show, the off-air conversations leak into when Rico turns on the mics without telling any of us.
That's kind of what I do.
Hello, we welcome in Strick and Austin. Hi, boys.
What's going
How
on?
we doing, gents? How's it going?
Chilling.
Are you okay?
You remember
What?
you know when you
Why
said
is
that,
he just gonna nod?
Nodding his head.
You know the people that are listening on the radio can't hear you nodding your head.
They can't see you, Strick.
I had to gather my thoughts.
Yeah, are you
because
Angel Reese? You can't see me.
I had to gather my thoughts because I could only think of the parody of that movie because I was in movie flow all weekend, right? I thought of the parody of that movie, Scream. And there's a scene,
Scary movie?
Scary movie.
Yeah,
right?
all of them. They're great.
So there's that scene where Marlon Wayans and the crew and his boys, they're downstairs and they're having a session, and they're like, "Man, we don't have a bong," and they're like, "Oh, we're gonna create one." And they used the fish bowl or the fish tank, and they created a bong, and they're going nuts. And then the Scream dude pops up, and they're like, "What's up, son? What's up, son?" Next thing you know, they're having like a rap cipher, and they're just all rapping.
And then they're all dead, and he just looks around and he goes,
Yo, that was sick, son.
So that was what he's doing. What are you
Time
doing?
out. Austin, have you seen this at all?
You've never
I have
seen
not,
it?
and I don't think I have to.
You haven't seen Scary Movie? I feel like I watched it.
That's not even it. But the funny part is when they did the old school.
on the phone. He's like, I'm gonna get in there. Just like, hold on, let me put this over. And it's just like, hey man, it's and then just like everybody's doing it.
That.
Yeah.
He said, "What are you doing?" He said, "I'm just chilling.
And then like,
That's what I thought about.
We don't even have to watch it anymore. We got the breakdown.
It's classic.
Speaking of movies, are we interested in the Super Mario Bros?
100%. I didn't think I did not think I was.
I bought tickets for Thursday.
Netflix for me, bro.
I did not think I was when I first saw it, and I was upset with Chris Pratt because
got kids. Though.
he goes, I'm not even gonna do it for the
Why
kids.
am I going?
I'm not even gonna do it for the
You're a
kids.
kid.
When Chris Pratt goes, this is unlike any Mario voice you've ever heard, and then it's just his voice, and I'm like, damn it, Chris Pratt, you got me. Charlie Day is Luigi, Jack Black is Bowser. Like, I'm excited.
See, I don't know any of the characters, and I knew Chris Pratt because I read about all that stuff, but I just bought the $5 movie tickets to $12 for two people to go to a movie on Thursday. I'm in.
Yeah.
I'm excited. I want to take the kids.
What's the plot of Mario?
That's what I'm curious
That's
about.
what I don't know.
You want to know what the plot of Mario is?
I'm going for the large popcorn.
Bowser's trying to take over the Mushroom Kingdom with one of the stars, right? He gets the star. He's trying to take over the Mushroom Kingdom. Mario, Peach, Luigi, and all of them got to stop him. That's all it is. That's what it always is.
How can you make the movie out of that?
Exactly.
Because it's a
That's my
cartoon.
question.
Because it's a cartoon. So you're in the Mushroom
without a
Kingdom.
plot.
They're driving. They're doing. They brought in Rainbow Road from Mario Kart, so they're doing that. Peach is a badass. Apparently,
They're just basically showing you the whole game.
they're showing you everything.
You know what I mean?
And apparently they
hello.
leave it open for interpretation at the end. They might make a second one. Shout out to Illumination.
Did you guys know how much it made this weekend?
Yeah, 338 million or something like that.
Not that much.
167.
Oh, those are
million.
worldwide.
So I have this weekend box numbers for April 17th or 7th, excuse me, April
weekend.
7th.
That was a whole
Yeah,
week.
no, not the week. Just over the 3 days. $146,361,000.
People thought it was gonna flop. It has not.
And just to put that in
Who
comparison,
made it?
Just
Who made it?
Illumination.
Is it Disney?
It's
Okay, so
Illumination. It's not Disney. It's the same people who made
Universal.
Despicable Me.
Universal, yeah. Now
Despicable
here's
Me, top 5 animated movie of all time.
Which one? Just the first one?
The original, the OG.
First one's good.
Here's-
The second one's actually pretty good.
Here's this for it, just to put into comparison and context. John Wick made 14 million this weekend.
Wow.
And Air, the Michael Jordan one, made 14 mil. So those were the number 2 and number 3 highest grossing from the weekend at 14 mil apiece. Then there's Super Mario Brothers, 146 million.
People like video games.
Well, I'm not even gonna say it's that. I really think parents have in a lot of ways really kind of been off Disney a little bit because Disney's been kind of funny style, right? As far as what I've been hearing out there. They've been looking for something to really tie both of them in, right? Because us as parents played Mario.
Oh, yeah.
On the old school Nintendo joint, right? And then it's an introduction to their kids, giving them an opportunity for their kids to be able to enjoy the cartoons without any, whatever
Concern,
people
concern.
trying to throw stuff into
exactly.
it, right? So basically, that's why I think it hit. You've got parents that, oh man, I remember, and you got them with kids that now they feel that's a comfortable thing for them to be able to take their kids to.
And Illumination does such a great job of making movies designed for kids with a lot of adult, like kind of what the kid movies used to do, where it's a lot of adult humor in them.
Old school,
they throw that in there. So I'm really excited to do it. Plus, Jack Black's hilarious, and he's gonna be Bowser. And apparently, there's a song in there that he sings. It's an original song. It's titled "Peaches" or whatever, and apparently, it's like in the Billboard Top 100.
Oh god.
So it's pretty popular.
So here's this. The total gross, and this is just in the United States. The total gross so far for the Super Mario Bros. Movie has been a little over $204 million. So global, it's probably around 300 or so. John Wick has the total gross just in the United States, 147 million. And then you have Creed that has made 153 million since its release.
Still need to get out and see that one. That's on my list.
Can you guys guess, this would probably be in the last couple months, the second highest gross movie in the United States?
Can I get options? Because I don't know what
Is it
movies
Dungeons and
came out.
Dragons?
It is not.
Dude, I want to go see that one.
Dungeons and Dragons made 13.8 mil this week and has made 61 million overall.
I'm gonna go watch that one.
But now, so I'll give you an option.
Okay,
I'll
give me
you
options. Yeah, give me options.
Okay, so it's obviously not Super
Wick
Mario
has
Bros.
got to happen for me this week.
Okay, so here are your options for second highest grossed movie since it's released in the United States by itself. John Wick, Dungeons and Dragons, Puss in Boots, Champions, Creed 3,
okay,
Shazam! Fury of the Gods, Scream 6.
I already know.
Yes!
I already know what it is.
I'm in on that.
Puss in
Scream
Boots?
6, I'm
Puss
in.
in Boots.
It is Puss in Boots.
That is the largest
Puss in
grossing
Boots.
animated film in
For all the reasons you were
quite
saying about
some time.
Mario.
I like
Puss in Boots.
I love the eyes.
100.
The bug eyes that he
Yeah.
gives me.
Yeah. Because it's like one of the first releases from the Shrek franchise since I believe Shrek 3. And it's
His voice is amazing. Is it
so great.
Banderas?
It's Antonio
that does his
Banderas.
voice?
Yes, he
I
still
love
does.
it. His voice is amazing.
And people were so excited for it, and it looks fantastic.
Yeah, so Puss in Boots, $185 million since it was released. All right, let's we got about a minute left here. Want to get into tomorrow. You guys, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about it. Husker baseball took 2 from Michigan and Ann Arbor. I'm
Another
sure
series they won.
you guys will talk about that. They're tied for 4th now in the Big Ten standings. Nebraska it's actually shaping up to be a decent field in the Big Ten tournament. When you have Iowa, Indiana, Nebraska, Maryland, all right around that top 50 range in the country, it's going to be shaping up to be a good conference tournament. And then we'll definitely get into more of the Husker volleyball talk tomorrow because they camped
played
out
this week too.
Yeah, they camped out since 8
Creighton?
p.m.
No, they're playing Wichita State in an exhibition.
In Central City.
In Central City, folks camped out since 8 p.m. last night.
Wow.
I want to have an extensive talk about that tomorrow.
We got some media availability with Coach John Cook, Merritt Beeson, and I believe another player today at 5:30. So I'll bring some of that back tomorrow.
There you go. All right, On the Block is next with Stricken Austin. Stick with us. Talk to you guys tomorrow.
You've driven by GE Landscape Supply countless times, likely without even knowing. At